Hey guys, welcome to Through the Bible Verse by Verse, a plain and simple study of the entire Bible, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse. Currently, we are in Joshua chapter 2 as he prepares the people to cross over the Jordan. Chapter 1, remember he told them in 3 days they would cross over. But Joshua's going to do something a little different. I kind of found odd, but we'll see his wisdom in just a moment. So he had already told the half tribes of the Reubenite. The Reubenite tribe in Gad, and then the half tribe of Massa, where they were going to settle on the other side of the Jordan. I did make a mistake. Let me go back and correct something here, because I did make a mistake and I said half the tribes. What I kind of said was when I brought this map out here, and it was talking about the different division of the tribes. When you see the Jordan, where the Jordan River is, the Dead Sea, and then the river that runs up, that Reubenites and Gads, they are on the other side of that Jordan there. I kind of made a mistake. I just want to correct that right quick. So Israel's, if you look at this map here, where the Dead Sea is, and then you see a river that goes all the way up, the Great River, right? I'm talking about the river goes to the Sea of Galilee. And so you see the Reubenites and then the Gads, they settle on the other side, and then with half the tribe of the Manasseh, they settled on the other side. And I think I said last time half, so I just wanted to correct that. All right, so let's get to chapter 2. And it says, Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 men as spies from Acacia Grove, saying, "Go and scout out the land, especially Jericho." So they left, and they came to the house of a woman, a prostitute named Rahab, and stayed there. Now, the wisdom here is Joshua, remember, no one in the sense necessarily knew that these men had left. That's the first, I think, wisdom here. The debacle 40 years previous of sending out the 12 spies led to them being in the wilderness 40 years. And it's possible that they want to just not necessarily see what the land was, but necessarily to kind of scout out strategy or whatever like that, I'm guessing here. Now, it's interesting they come to a prostitute house, and Rahab is a very interesting person. One, she's a prostitute. And the reason why this is important here, because she is in the direct bloodline of Jesus. And that's what makes this extremely, it makes her extremely important. I want to read on, and I want to come back and talk about her faith. And that's the other thing about Rahab. Her faith is outstanding here. Now, verse 2 says, the king of Jericho was told, "Look, some of the Israelites men have come here tonight to investigate the land." And right there, I think that's one of the wisdom of what Joshua was doing. Not to see if the land was, in a sense, being able, if they could take the land or not, which with the original spies poisoned the people's faith by saying, we're not able to take the land. It was clear to them they were going to take the land. Verse 3, then the king of Jericho sent word to Rahab and said, "Bring out the men who came to you and enter your house, for they came to investigate the entire land." Now, you may go, well, why, man, how did the king know so fast? One, small town. Two, remember, so when you would come into a town, right, it was kind of obvious they did not look like the people of Jericho. That's another thing. So So people watched him, and remember, the town is not as big as you may think, too. So, probably I would say a little bigger than a village, which we may call, or it could even be a village size. But anyway, it was close enough where people can watch, and then they were able to give word to the king. Verse 4 says, "But the woman had taken the two men and hidden them. So she said, 'Yes, the men did come to me, but I did not know where they were from. At nightfall, when the gates was about to close, the men went out, and I don't know where they were going. Chase after them quickly, and you can catch up with them.' But she had taken them up to her roof and hidden them among the stalks of flax, and she arranged on the roof. And the men pursued them along the road of the ford of the Jordan, and as soon as they left to pursue them, the gate was shut." Jericho was probably, again, strong city, because notice it had a wall and then it had a gate. Okay, unlike other weaker cities that would not have had that, would have made them easier to be captured and overtaken. So verse 8, "Before the men fell asleep, she went up to the roof and said to them, 'I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that the terror of you has fallen on us, and everyone who lives in the land is panicking because of you.'" Let me go back to this, because I want you to pay attention to what she just said. She said, "We know the Lord has given you this land." No, well, let me correct myself. She says, "I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that the terror of the land, the terror of you has fallen on us, and everyone is in panic because of you." Now, I want you to see something here about the prostitute Rahab, and we're going to see this pattern throughout the Old Testament. One, notice where her faith is formed. She says, "I know." What is ironic, and I told you I would bring this up, 40 years before, the spies, remember, said, "We can't take the land. The people are too great." But I want you to notice how they thought of Israel. Right? Verse 10, "For we have heard how the Lord dried up the waters of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the two Amorite kings you completely destroyed across the Jordan." They heard this. Now, verse 11, "When we heard this, we lost heart, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God of heaven above the earth, above and earth. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth below." This is astounding. Her faith. Now I want you to understand this. She hears about what God did. And one of the most interesting things that we will see is that the people who have had the greater faith in God have been the non-Israelites. Because remember, the Israelites 40 years before said, "We can't take the land." And yet they were then, oh my God, look, these are the people whose God dried up the Red Sea and drowned the Egyptians. These are the people whose gods, and remember, just a year ago, destroyed Sihon and Og. Notice that these are the people. Now, here's where Rahab is different than the rest of her countrymen. Look at verse 12. "Now, please swear to me by the Lord that you will also show kindness to my family, because I showed kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father, mother, brothers, and sisters, and all who belong to them, and save us from death." Now, so here's the difference between Rahab and the countrymen. They all feared. They all acknowledged the God of Israel. They all acknowledged that. But Rahab submitted and says, "Hey, You guys gonna take the land. Have mercy on me. Now, what is interesting is that, remember, the king, though they knew the God of Israel was strong, was powerful, they're going to try to fortify against, they're going to try to fight against. See the two differences of the faith right here? And that's what's amazing about Rahab's faith. And what's also kind of interesting is that she was a prostitute. Notice now she is saving her family, father, mother, brothers, and sisters. Verse 14, the men answered her, "We will give our lives for yours if you don't report our mission. We will show kindness and faithfulness to you when the Lord gives us this land." Now remember this generation there, they are on it. God is going to give us this land. Verse 15. Then she let them down by a rope through the window, since she lived in a house that was built into the wall of the city. She said, "Go to the hill country so that the men pursuing you won't find you." She said to them, "Hide yourself there for 3 days until they return. Afterwards, you can go on your way." The men said to her, "We will be free from this oath you made us to swear, unless when we enter the land you tie the scarlet cord to the window through which you let us down. Bring your fathers, mothers, brothers, and all of your family into your house. If anyone goes out the doors of your house, his blood will be on his own head, and we will be innocent. But if anyone with you in the house should be harmed, his blood will be on our heads. And if you report our mission, we are free from the oath you have sworn to us." She says, "Let it be as you say," she replied, and then she sent them away. After they had gone, she tied the scarlet cord to the window. Now, kind of reminiscent of, remember when the Passover lamb, the night that Israel left, that they took the blood and painted over the doorpost. The same instructions was given to them, that if you go outside, the death angels, you would be stricken by the death angel. But if you remain inside, the death angel will pass over your house. So the two men went out of the hill country and stayed there for 3 days until the pursuers had returned. And they searched all along the way but did not find them. Then the men returned and came down from the hill country and crossed the Jordan. And they went to Joshua the son of Nun and reported everything that had happened to them. And they told Joshua, "The Lord has handed the entire land to us. Everyone who lives in the land is also panicking because of us." And again, this is just amazing here, because think about the faith of Rahab here. And as I said, we're going to see this pattern with the land and why they are judged. Okay? Why the people of the land are judged, because they could have chosen. And you remember Balak back in the book of Numbers, right? And again, remember, these events are just 2 years old. They're 2 years. They acknowledge the God of Israel, his power. They acknowledge that Israel had God on their side. So why didn't they come to faith like Rahab? See, that's the interesting thing right here. They could have said, "Lord, your will be done," and submitted to God, but they didn't. Which again brings us to the issue of the hardness, the sinfulness, the hardness of man towards God. And I told you we're going to see this throughout the scripture. The one theme, you see God's grace, love, and mercy, but you also see man's hardness against that. Here you see these people, and remember, it's not that they were confused. They knew this is the one true God. But in their sinfulness, they refused to change. In their sinfulness, They chose to not. They chose not to really surrender to God. This is what this is about here. So they will perish as a group. Rahab and her family will be the only ones saved because they had faith. Jericho will fall and the other nations will fall around them because of their sinful hearts, even though they know. And this is the thing that is most amazing about this sin thing. So those of us who are saved, you should be thanking God for his mercy. I do, because I kind of, man, how did I not fall into this level of hardness? And this is what you see here. The people of Jericho, their hardness against God, knowing God was going to destroy them, knowing he was powerful enough to destroy him, knowing what he did for his people Israel. Why didn't they surrender? Why didn't they say, Lord, have mercy on us? Now, as a sinner, we're hopelessly lost in our sin without God. But the hope is in his love and his grace and his mercy. See, we can't save ourselves. That's not what's going on here. They're acknowledging the God of heaven and yet saying, we reject him. Now, this pattern of the hardness of the heart will follow man all the way to the end. And if you go to Revelation chapter 20, you see just that. Jesus will be on this earth for 1,000 years. And then after that 1,000 years, there will be people who will rebel against God and try to destroy him. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But on the other hand, Rahab, a prostitute, right? A woman of ill repute, a sinner, right? Saves her family because of her faith. A prostitute now. Now get this. A prostitute saves her family from destruction because she believed. Now, what's interesting is, in terms of at this moment, it's not that she changed, she believed. And as I said, she becomes in the bloodline of Jesus. And 3 of the 4 women in the bloodline of Jesus were people who were not the best. They were people outside of Israel. They were people that came from pagan backgrounds. Tamar, Rahab, Ruth. All 3 in the bloodline, the direct bloodline of Jesus. Think about that. All right, guys, look. We'll pick it up in chapter 3 in the next study. I'll see you then.